SpaceX has just hit a major milestone that underscores its pioneering spirit in rocket reusability. The company successfully landed its Falcon 9 booster on a drone ship for the 400th time. This astounding achievement took place shortly after sunrise on Wednesday, when a Falcon 9 rocket launched yet another batch of 28 Starlink satellites into orbit, marking a significant moment in spaceflight history. The rocket lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at exactly 7:10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And about 8.5 minutes later, the first stage booster, named B-1095, gracefully touched down on the drone ship. Just read the instructions, often abbreviated as JRTI, located in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of the Carolinas. Remarkably, this booster was on its second flight, showcasing SpaceX's impressive capability to refly key rocket components. Most of these 400 ocean landings have happened aboard another one of SpaceX's drone ships named, Of Course I Still Love You, O'Sisley. Both O'Sisley and JRTI began service back in 2015, revolutionizing rocket recovery operations. It's important to remember that SpaceX's journey toward reliable booster landings wasn't without hurdles. Their very first successful Falcon 9 booster recovery actually occurred on solid ground in December 2015. However, getting that same feat to work at sea took longer. The first successful sea landing came on April 8, 2016, during the CRS-8 mission to the International Space Station. After several attempts that included some failures and even damaging the first JRTI drone ship beyond repair. This history reveals just how cutting-edge and risky booster sea landings were at the time, as SpaceX pushed the boundaries of aerospace engineering. SpaceX now operates a fleet of 3 drone ships, JRTI, O'Sisley, and the newest, a shortfall of Gravitas, which are absolutely crucial for their approach to rocket reusability. Reusing boosters dramatically lowers costs and increases launch frequency, making space access more affordable and sustainable. John Edwards, SpaceX's vice president for Falcon and Dragon programs, recently emphasized on X, formerly known as Twitter, the critical importance of staying competitive and pushing technological limits. He warned against complacency, likening it to the classic fable of the tortoise and the hare, and expressed the company's relentless drive to enhance launch cadence, payload capacity, and rapid reusability. When our competitors eventually arrive, Edwards noted, we need to ensure they remain far behind us in the rearview mirror. And this is the part most people miss. The race for reusable rocket tech is heating up among multiple players. Jeff Bezos' aerospace company Blue Origin, for instance, designed its New Glenn rocket to have boosters capable of propulsive landings on a ship platform. Although Blue Origin's first attempt to land its booster, named So You're Telling Me There's a Chance, in January 2025, didn't succeed, they're gearing up for a second try with a booster called Never Tell Me the Odds. This upcoming launch will carry 2 Mars-focused satellites for NASA before aiming for a touchdown on the vessel named Jacqueline, honoring Bezos' mother. Rocket Lab is also in the game, with ambitions to land its Neutron rocket's first stage on a specialized 400-foot-long platform under construction by Bollinger Shipyards. This platform, referred to as return on investment, is slated to begin operations in early 2026. While Rocket Lab previously experimented with parachute recovery of their Electron rocket stages and attempted to catch them mid-air via helicopter, none of the boosters have been reflown yet, except for a single refurbished Rutherford engine reused in another mission. Adding even more complexity to the competition, Stoke Space aims to achieve full reusability with its Nova rocket, a goal closer to SpaceX's Starship ambitions than Falcon 9's approach. Stoke Space is constructing a new launch pad at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's Launch Complex 14, targeted to be ready by early 2026. The international arena is also heating up, Several Chinese companies are diving into vertical takeoff and vertical landing, VTVL technology. Landspace performed a 10-kilometer hop test in 2024, while Space Epoch successfully flew its Yuanxing-1 rocket to about 2.5 kilometers altitude before a controlled splashdown in the Yellow Sea. These tests highlight the global effort to master rocket reusability and reduce launch costs. Meanwhile, United Launch Alliance, ULA, is pursuing a different kind of reusability strategy. Instead of landing boosters intact, ULA plans to separate the engine section of its upcoming Vulcan rocket and protect it during atmospheric re-entry using an inflatable shield. The aim is to recover this section from the ocean for refurbishment and reuse, offering an alternative vision to the popular propulsive landing method. But here's where it gets controversial. Does the rapid push for booster reusability raise questions about cost-effectiveness and environmental impact? Are we prioritizing speed over sustainability by launching more frequently with used hardware? And with so many players adopting varying methods, which approach will truly dominate the future of space travel? What are your thoughts on the fierce competition in rocket reusability? Do you believe full booster reuse is the key to unlocking the future of spaceflight, or might alternative methods like ULA's engine section recovery prove more practical? Let's start a conversation in the comments below. Your perspective could shine new light on this rapidly evolving frontier.